in the process, with attendant positive effect on aircraft serviceability and operational effectiveness. The climax of the research and development efforts of the Nigerian Air Force is the recent induction into the service of the first indigenous operational unmanned aerial vehicle named Tsegumi.
In the last 2 years, for example, under the current leadership, going to 2.5 years, the Nigerian Air Force has been able to secure patent rights for 2 R&D breakthroughs. The first one is what I have here, the hydraulic diaphragm of the MI helicopter.
Check the mic for the last time.
This is, before we were able to produce it through indigenous research and development.
Are you fine?
One piece for about $17,000. But this will now produce about $100.
Check mic 1 2.
So you can look at the price differential and be able to determine whether R&D is necessary or not. We don't have to produce the entire plane, but if we can produce parts that that require frequent changing, we'll be saving the country a lot of money. Other recent breakthrough that we've made is in the production of the heat shield cones for the Alpha Jet rocket launchers. Each of the heat shield cones we buy at about $1,500, and we expend about 40 every week in the theater of operations in the Northeast. So if, for example, we produce just 2,000, we are talking in the region of over ₦1 billion. But through indigenous research and development, we are now producing about 2,000 for less than 20 million naira. So you look at it, $1 billion and 20 million. The difference is humongous. So that is what R&D can do. And then there are so many other breakthroughs we've recently recorded, like in the area of the production, the repairs of the multifunction display of the Augusta 109 helicopter. That singular display panel, to get another one will cost us about $100,000. But we've been able to repair one for, in fact, for virtually nothing. So these are the kind of things that research and development can do. It will save cost, it will improve the capacity of our research personnel, who are mostly engineers, and it will also reduce the time that we need to get our aircraft back in the air in case of any minor problems with it.
As part of its corporate social responsibility and strategy to win the hearts and minds of the locals in conflict areas, the Nigerian Air Force has in recent times invested heavily in a number of humanitarian intervention schemes, including but not limited to medical outreach programs across the country.
Over this period, you'll find that the Nigerian Air Force Medical Service actually is one of the best. We have a team of doctors, including specialist surgeons and even obstetrics and gynecologists deployed to run. As you are aware now, recently when there was an episode in Iran, all the civil agencies pulled out of, especially those providing medical services, they pulled out of Iran. So the Chief of Air Staff gave a directive to the medical service: you must organize a team and send to Iran to fill in the gap created by the civilian agency. And that's why now we have a team dispatched to Iran to provide consultation and treatment for, and then surgeries to be conducted. Those that can be conducted in Iran will be conducted. Those with major surgeries that require full support of a hospital will be flown to Maiduguri, and then will be operated in our theater. So if you see, over these last 3 years, well, we have provided various services to over 300,000 civilians, and most especially in the Northeast. And added to that, you know that the Nigerian Air Force Medical Services had maintained 2 hospitals within the conflict area, one in Bama and one in Dalori, where we have a permanent presence of our personnel providing care to IDPs who have been living in these camps.
Being mindful of the primacy of the human being as an enabler and multiplier of other resources, the Nigerian Air Force has also focused on massive infrastructural development aimed at improving and sustaining the morale of personnel and their families.
When this administration came in 2015, the accommodation sufficiency, what I mean by that, personnel that could be considered to be adequately accommodated was 45%. Because at 2018, we have attained about 66% accommodation sufficiency, with only about 3% of our personnel who are on lodging allowance, because they are not given any form of tied-down married accommodation. This shows a corresponding increase of about 21% from 2015 to date. Other aspects of welfare include the provision of sporting facilities like gyms. For between 2015 to date, we've been able to construct 7 new gyms which are fully equipped to ensure physical fitness and recreation for our personnel. In addition to that, we have also rehabilitated 3 old gyms that are in a very dilapidated state and equipped them with state-of-the-art gym equipment. On education, we have recorded giant strides in terms of education as part of our responsibility to ensure our personnel and their wards are adequately educated while they are at the front, so that nothing will disturb them from discharging their responsibilities. In this regard, we have built new schools. For instance, in Abuja, we have been able to establish a brand new comprehensive school, a boarding comprehensive school for girls. In Shasha, we have constructed a day secondary school. If you know Lagos very well, hitherto, the children of our personnel had to go to Ikeja, where our secondary school is, and you know the traffic situation in Lagos, so the chief deemed his fit and he has established and equipped a new day secondary school. Aside from that, virtually all our schools have seen either some kind of rehabilitation, particularly you go to Air Force Military School, JOS. Both the hostels, the recreational area, the classrooms, the admin area have all been rehabilitated. New classroom furniture and e-learning materials have been provided. Ibadan, Air Force Comprehensive School Ibadan, due to its location, which is about 15 to 25 minutes drive from Ibadan, had no electricity. I think over a year ago, we have commissioned a hybrid solar power. So as I speak to you, that school enjoys electricity. Kaduna Airport School used to be a day school. Now it's been converted into a boarding school to ensure the kids are kept within a confined environment, and so that they have the best environment to study. Aside from that, it's part of our corporate social responsibility to our host community. And if you check the performance of our school vis-a-vis private schools, they can be rated pari passu.
The Nigerian Air Force embarked on capacity building of the personnel as key to putting man and machine to effective use towards the attainment of his statutory responsibilities. This first key driver of the Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Baba Abubakar, was well thought out, as it is the major boost to the recent successes recorded in the operational effectiveness of the service.
Our belief is that you cannot give what you don't have. It is a very simple statement, but it's very loaded as well. Yeah, no matter how much you desire to do something, if you don't have the knowledge to do that thing, and you don't have the skills to do that, certainly you'll not be able to succeed. It's just like carrying a pilot and taking him and giving him a stethoscope in the hospital and say, okay, these are your patients, go ahead and deal with them. You are going to end up with disaster because the man is not trained to deal with these problems. So similarly, in the Air Force, we believe that the most important resource in any society is the human being. And that human being can only be useful if he is properly trained, if he has the required skills, he has the required attitude, and he's taken care of. And that is what is guiding whatever we are doing. And that is why the issue of welfare of personnel is paramount in what we are doing. We must make sure that if we are entrusting a young man with a multi-million-dollar aircraft to go and fly and make our communities secure, then we must make sure that that young man has a place to sleep. His family, has a place to call their home in the base, comfortable, so that after I had this work, he can retire back and say, yes, I have worked to make Nigeria safe, and I have a place to at least sleep. Similarly, if he has children, we must provide for their schools, the best of schools. We should not allow our people to start going to private schools. Where is he going to get the money to pay for private school? But the service that is tasking him to go and do this job should provide not only accommodation for him and his family, but should provide a good school for his children, so that once he's in the Northeast flying, he knows the home front is in order. Not that he will be in the Northeast and then the child, does not have a good school to go. Similarly, the medical facilities, and that's why in our medical we have upgraded most of our hospitals. And similarly, we have created reference hospital in Bauchi, like I said, and in Port Harcourt, and we are working to ensure one in Enugu as well. So, human capacity.
Furnishing of the Air Police School in Kaduna to meet international best standards.
For me, as a person, it has impacted so much positively on me. I've been trained as an aircraft engineer up to the master's degrees level. And in the past 3 to 4 years, the service has witnessed a lot of developments in terms of manpower and infrastructural developments.
For me in particularly, at least I go home with the joy of, yes, having a comfortable place to live in. That's for one, in terms of accommodation. At the end of the day, when I'm talking about the education part of it, my children go to school knowing fully well that, yes, they have a conducive place to study in. In another aspect, if we were to talk about the monetary aspect, yes, it has really alleviated my spending by helping me to pay part of my school fees for my kids.
The Nigerian Air Force has evolved over the past 54 years to become one of the most potent forces on the African continent. And several things have indeed changed in the Nigerian Air Force. There were no dedicated intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance aircraft that could possibly coordinate airstrikes and also have records of battle damage assessment. But today, we have dedicated intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance aircraft in the inventory of the Nigerian Air Force that are actively involved in all our air operations, and that has made our air operations to be much more effective and even more efficient than they were in the past. Beyond the area of operations, looking at aircraft maintenance, in the past, the Nigerian Air Force relied virtually on foreign vendors and foreign firms for all its aircraft maintenance activities, especially the major maintenance activities. But today, we have an increasing ability to conduct some of these maintenance activities on our own, to the point that major aircraft maintenance activities such as the periodic depot maintenance of some aircraft are now being conducted in Nigeria here. For example, as we speak, a C-130 Hercules aircraft is undergoing periodic depot maintenance right here in Nigeria, and this was something that in the way past wouldn't have been possible. Beyond the area of aircraft maintenance, we also have a situation where our base defense system is now a much more mobile system, a much more effective system. In the past, the base defense system was largely static. We relied totally on the Nigerian Army detachment for our base protection. But today, with the introduction of the specially trained regiment personnel known as the Special Forces, we are able to better protect our bases, and it's what's been described as bridging the gap between force projection and force protection. Talking about accommodation, in the past, accommodation was a very big challenge for both officers and airmen and airwomen. But what's been done in the past 2-3 years is an increasing construction of residential accommodation over all our bases, such that much more than ever before, our personnel are better accommodated.
Clearly, the modest achievements of the Nigerian Air Force as it marches ahead could not have been accomplished without the adequate support of the federal government and the commitment of the Nigerian Air Force officers, airmen, airwomen, and the civilian staff.
In terms of support from the federal government, I will say that it has been unprecedented. We have gained substantially from the support of the federal government in terms of increasing the number of platforms that are available to us in the Nigerian Air Force. And I will support this statement by giving you figures. We, with the support of the federal government, the Air Force has inducted 10 Super Mushak trainer aircraft, which are currently in Kaduna, flying and adding value to ab initio training. Prior to that time, we didn't have enough aircraft for the ab initio training, and most times we've been sending our pilots out of the country to do their flying training. For the first time in many, many years, about 28 years or thereabout, we've been able to train cadets who have completed their ab initio flying training last year. For the first time in about 29, 28 years. This is the first time we are seeing cadets graduating from the 401 flying training school. Most times you find officers get commissioned and sometimes even get promoted a number of times while they are still doing their ab initio training. But for the first time, because of the number of aircraft that we now have available, in 4 months they were able to conduct the ab initio training, 18 pilots. We are expecting 2 attack helicopters from Italy, the Agusta 109 Power. And we have also made provisions for another 2 in 2018 budget. So if you put that together, you are talking of 18 brand new aircrafts in less than 3 years. And of course, apart from that, ongoing discussions are on to acquire the Super Tucano aircraft from the United States of America. And you are talking of 12 multi-role Super Tucano A-29 aircraft. This is, like I said, unprecedented in terms of acquisition. The last time we had this kind of acquisition and support, from the federal government was in the 80s. Apart from the acquisition of these brand new ones, we are also lucky to have reactivated 12 aircraft that were hitherto not flying. So if you add all this, if you have 12, you have 18, you are talking of 30 platforms. And I believe that by the time we acquire all this, the Super Tucanos, I believe, will change. They are multi-role. They can be used for ISR. They can be used for offensive operations. So actually, you find that it's one aircraft, but playing so many other roles. We on our own have gone ahead to start training. And that is why we've been training and retraining. We have winged about 84 pilots already. And some other pilots are in different parts of the world, some in Nigeria, And I believe that ultimately this will add a lot of value to what we are doing in terms of making sure that Nigeria is secured and our people are able to go around or go about their businesses without any hindrance. So on this note, I will want to first and foremost thank the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces for giving us these assets, for approving the assets, for approving our budgetary proposals. I want to also thank the members of the National Assembly who have appropriated the resources for us to be able to acquire these platforms that are currently in Nigeria. In addition to that, of course, we want to thank the Honorable Minister of Defense, the Permanent Secretary Minister of Defense, the Director, the Honorable Minister of Finance, the Governor of the Central Bank have also, and of course the Accountant General of the Federation, have played a very crucial role in ensuring that these aircraft are acquired and people are able to get this the service able to get this aircraft. And then finally, and most importantly also, the pilots, the technicians, the airmen, airwomen that are working round the clock in a very harsh environment to ensure that our society and our communities are secured. We want to thank them most sincerely as well. Thank you.
As the Nigerian Air Force celebrates its 54th anniversary, there is no doubt that it is marching ahead in a positive trajectory. Women have played functional roles and assumed responsibilities in combat operations over time. On the African battlefields, examples of such women of war abound, where women form more than 30% of the fighting force. Female soldiers played key roles during the Algerian Revolution against colonial France. Fatima Ajon of Niger Military Hospital was promoted to general and became first woman in Algerian People's National Army, as well as Africa, to attain that rank. In Nigeria, history will not forget Queen Amina of Zazzau. She is the subject of many legends and believed by historians to have been a real ruler who led men to many victorious wars. The Armed Forces of Nigeria has always had some women in the three services who have participated in both internal and external military operations in the restoration of peace to conflict zones. However, their duties were mostly limited to non-combat roles such as medical, education, and administration, where they served as doctors, nurses, and allied medical support services, as well as teachers. Over the years, however, the Armed Forces has witnessed a gradual involvement of women into combat and core combat support roles, especially in the Nigerian Air Force. This documentary focuses on the growing role of these Nigerian Air Force women of war in operations with a view to highlighting their contributions to the peace, security, and development of the Nigerian nation. Over the years, the Nigerian Air Force has produced prominent female officers and airwomen who have contributed immensely to the peace within Nigeria as well as in the African continent. However, as the late United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan stated, women combatants are often invisible, leading to the obliteration of their vital roles. Things have, however, changed since the incumbent leadership of the Nigerian Air Force came on board 3 years ago. Within this period, the role of women in the Nigerian Air Force has become overwhelmingly evident. The reason, among others, is the increasing opportunities given to women in various specialties to express their potentials under the leadership of Air Marshal Sadiq Baba Abubakar.
The Air Force is a gender-sensitive service. In other words, opportunities are given to both females and males. And we believe that everybody has the right, to be given the opportunity to follow his dream or her dream. It has nothing to do with what your gender is. What is important to the service is productivity. Are you productive? Are you adding value to what we are doing? Are you showing the required diligence and hard work that will move the service to the next level?
When we joined, it was restricted only to medical, catering, and not even admin. We had a pharmacist. Those are the classes of trades we had in professions we had in the Air Force then.
Well, maybe if I had opportunity to go to another field then, possibly I could have accepted. But when we joined, the options we had were actually education, information, medicals, and quite few. We weren't given many options, really.
The contributions of women have moved exponentially from the education and medical fields to core functions in areas such as the regiment specialty and combat support services.
It gladdened my heart because it is, let me say this, the Air Force gave us an opportunity to develop ourselves, to find out who we are, what we can do and what we cannot do. And let me say, maybe I can say the sky was the limit. As long as we are able to study, to work hard, you can achieve whatever you want to achieve within your profession at that time. But now it's even more.
It shows that we're developing. It shows that we're moving beyond our myopic thinking, what a man can do, a woman will not do or do very well. We're showing ourselves that we're capable, and if given the right opportunity and the right atmosphere, we can also do as good as the men are doing.
The Nigerian Air Force has many sensitive operational fields where before now, only men were trusted to function. However, the women are today gradually finding their place and carving a niche for themselves in these areas of specialty.
On inspection tours, I have seen quite a number of female personnel that are working in very difficult conditions, participating to maintain our aircraft and make sure that our airplanes are ready for mission. The reactivation of the Mi-35P in Port Harcourt, during my visit, I saw quite a number of female personnel that are participating very actively in terms of dismantling and assembling of engines and putting back components of the helicopter. And I think I was really excited and very happy. Similarly, in Yola, if you go there, in Kainji, you see female personnel working hand in hand with their male counterparts.
Before the inception of the current leadership of the Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Baba Abubakar, the Nigerian Air Force had witnessed a manpower gap in its operations. Accordingly, in line with his vision to reposition the Nigerian Air Force into a highly professional and disciplined fighting force through capacity building initiatives, the Chief of the Air Staff embarked on an aggressive recruitment drive and also commenced robust and result-oriented training
the representative of the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Defense, branch chiefs, air officers commanding, senior officers, members of the diplomatic corps, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I warmly welcome you all to this maiden International Air Power Seminar taking place here at the Nigerian Air Force Officers Mess, Kado, Abuja. I am particularly delighted to welcome all our retired senior officers who have found time to be with us today. You are all welcome, sir. May I also specially recognize the presence of the chiefs of air staff from allied countries who are participating in this seminar. We hope that you will enjoy your short stay with us in the next 3 days. Thank you, sir. Shortly, we shall be commencing this event, and we request that you bear with us in the meantime. Thank you very much.
As part of this repositioning process, the massive recruitments were conducted with no discrimination with respect to gender, as both males and females were given equal opportunities.
The recruitment has not been discriminatory. It has covered both sex, both male and female. And in major combat specialties like the armament, we are privileged within its tenure to have a large chunk of female personnel, both as airwomen, as officers, coming into the specialty.
Massive training of the personnel at all levels and trades for men and women has continued unabated since the last 3 years. Today in the service, female personnel are found in more areas doing excellently well on the job than before. We shall highlight a few of these personnel in active operational areas of the Nigerian Air Force.
So we have a couple of the female personnel that are in the base ops, in the operational support wing of the unit. They're the ones that brief us about how the weather is going to be, what our environment is going to be, what the envelope we're going to fly into, what we expect, and then it helps us also to plan as operations personnel on how we're going to conduct our mission. So right from the word go, we have it.
The Nigerian Air Force is a highly technical service, and so the aircraft engineering professionals are required to be top-notch in terms of service delivery to ensure serviceability of the platforms. This area has witnessed growth in the involvement of female personnel in the last 3 years.
Using 631 Aircraft Maintenance Depot as an example, they have contributed as equally as what the men have done. They are well trained. Just as you have seen at the hangar, they equally carry out maintenance on the C-130 aircraft.
They have not performed less than the men. In every task we have given them, they have performed to the best of their ability, and we are confident that what they have done is good enough for us.
Obviously, you've seen them doing some work on the aircraft. You saw some of them recovering us as we landed in here just now, and they are participating in our activities very much.
I have been trained in the Air Force as an aircraft engineer. I have gone to AFIT. I've done my postgraduate diploma in aerospace engineering. I have been type-rated. I've also been given the opportunity to go to China to study aircraft maintenance engineering, of which I did my best, and I came out as the best overall when I went to China. And since then, I've been giving out my best in the Air Force.
The armament specialty of the Nigerian Air Force, like other specialties, has also recorded the advent of several female officers and airwomen who are today arming the fighter aircraft along with their male counterparts.
Our major task is preparing stores and arming the aircraft with these stores, and where they are not expended, they arming the aircraft. In doing this, our officers and men partake, and since
female personnel, both as officers and airwomen, are recruited, they actively participate in all these functions, and they have been doing excellently well.
I prefer armament because that's what I read. I read chemical engineering. So the only place where I can practice that which I read in the university is armament.
We have a few women around, and it's not actually easy because you have to like work double hard to prove yourself.
Worthy of special mention is the female loadmaster on the C-130 Hercules aircraft, who has proven herself amongst men in a very challenging task of balancing the weight of the cargo.
We have a loadmaster, as I said, the only female C-130 crew up till today. Although we are making if others show interest, because it's not a profession that you should push people.
The importance of the loadmaster on the C-130 aircraft cannot be overemphasized.
When I first got to the unit, I met my colleagues doing the job, so I kind of developed interest on the job, the way they do their things, how they organize stuff, and it's a very challenging course. So I felt if they can do it, why not? I should also give it a try.
Another worthy mention is a female officer at the Air Force Institute of Technology, doing the service proud in her area of specialty.
I have one lady who is an excellent officer, a very resourceful female officer, Flight Lieutenant Ufodile. She has a PhD in control engineering, and we found her to be extremely valuable to the unit.
She has contributed significantly to our development of this Egumi UAV, and she's there as well, doing excellently well. So we are looking forward to a very bright future for female personnel.
Air traffic control is an important part of aviation, and the Nigerian Air Force air operations depend on it largely for in- and outbound flights. This area is also dominated by the male personnel in the service, but at the moment, a female officer is an air traffic control officer (ATCO), and some air women have been trained as air traffic control assistant (ATCAs) and are bridging the manpower gap witnessed in this specialty in the past.
I was initially of geography and meteorology, which is also in aviation, but after joining the service, it was the service that now trained me to become an air traffic controller.
When the aircraft are serviceable, there is need for the pilots to fly them for operations. In the last 3 years, the Nigerian Air Force has witnessed significant growth in the number of pilots winged on the various platforms, 91 to be precise. The females are not left out of this core area of the service. Today in the service, there are female pilots flying missions and adding value in their various units.
Here in the fleet, I have one female pilot, Flight Lieutenant Liman. Incidentally, she is the first female pilot in the Air Force, and we have had her here in the fleet for about 7 years. She's currently rated on the Falcon 7X airplane, which is one of the most advanced in terms of performance and complexity. And she's also rated on the Challenger 605, which is also a very high performance airplane. And she has been doing excellently well. She's doing very, very well.
For me, as a flight lieutenant and as a pilot in the NAF, I've been trained in one of the best airplanes in the world. And the chief of the air staff is really particular about females in the NAV. He has provided enrichment courses to make sure that we don't just fly, we fly safe.
Oh, flying is a very interesting experience. It gives you a perspective that you can't get on the ground. And for me, that's one of the things I like very much about flying.
These women of war are not unaware of the numerous challenges faced by the female in a male-dominated service, and are very appreciative of the leadership of the Nigerian Air Force for the opportunity given them to express themselves and contribute their quota to the growth of the Nigerian Air Force and the Nigerian military in general.
For me, I want to say thank you to the Chief of Air Staff. Without him, we wouldn't be where we are.
I'm really grateful and I'm happy that I have the opportunity to fly, and really happy that they are allowing women.
I want to thank the Chief of the Air Staff for giving us the opportunity as women to join the engineering crew.
It's been really interesting to see that the present Chief of the Air Staff has really encouraged women folk in especially technical areas by, giving a lot of them training in those technical areas, engineering areas, science-based areas, and more women are beginning to get interested and get involved in these areas.
Today, for the first time in the history of the Armed Forces of Nigeria, Nigerian Air Force female pilots are engaged in flying ISR missions within the theater of operation. And in no distant time, the Nigerian Air Force will produce the first female fighter pilot. This in itself is a product of the Chief of the Air Staff's vision to reposition the Nigerian Air Force into a highly professional and disciplined fighting force through capacity building initiative. In line with that vision, Flying Officer Kafayat Omolara Sani is currently undergoing the undergraduate pilot training in the United States of America. After her graduation, Flying Officer Sani will become the first female fighter pilot in the Nigerian Air Force.
She worked hard. She was about the first person probably to go on solo in Kaduna, and she has been consistently working hard, until she graduated as the best all-round in flying. So similarly, the female officer we have in South Africa that is doing helicopter training has also done excellently well in her ab initio training. And so our desire is to ensure that we provide equal opportunities for both males and females in the service. And I think we have laid that foundation, and we are reaping from that foundation. So many of the female personnel are doing excellently well in different theaters of operation, and similarly quite a number of them are flying in different units. The ATR 42, you also have a female pilot that spends hours conducting ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance missions in the Northeast in order to support her male counterparts and also support the desire of the federal government to have a secured country. So that will continue, I believe, and from the benefits we are deriving from that policy, obviously, there's absolutely no reason why we should stop female personnel from participating in these activities.
I'm very glad that Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Baba Abubakar, has awarded me with this opportunity based on my last performance on the 401 Flying Training School Kaduna as coming out as the best in flying student pilots. I'm aware of how tough it is to put a female in combat, so I really appreciate and I say thank you to everyone, and a big thank you to the Chief of the Air Staff. Thank you, sir.
Another area of the service that before now had only men is the regiment specialty. Today, females are found participating actively and effectively in the regiment of the Nigerian Air Force. Some have made it into the elite Nigerian Air Force Special Operations Force and are currently deployed to conflict zones across the country.
As the BSG commander, one of my primary responsibilities is to ensure the defense of the base. And in my base defense plan, I found out that the women are extremely reliable. One thing about them is that they hardly assume.
The female officer I have here, who is doing very well in my assessment, Lieutenant Chankat, her performance in the field and other things. So in my assessment, they are doing very well. It's a worthwhile venture.
I joined the Air Force to be combatant before I went to the intelligence, and then I was lucky and fortunate, got to see the Chief of Air Staff, to come to the regiment and then to Special Force. And so it is an opportunity. I feel so fulfilled on earth doing this. It has prepared me to be ready to sacrifice my life, my energy, and everything for my nation, at least contributing my quota to the service and to the nation.
Apart from having the zeal of being a soldier, I was born in a military family. My dad was an infantry soldier. He's a fighter, and I see myself that one day I will be there. I will lead a team of squad where a man is supposed to be, because I know I have the strength and the determination.
The first female air police officer has proven herself on the job over the years, and as it is with the Nigerian Air Force, she has been given equal opportunities that has enabled her to excel on the job.
I am a proud Air Provost officer, and I've never regretted being part of this noble specialty. I have been opportune to work with superiors, contemporaries, and subordinates who have always given the enabling environments for me to be able to effectively carry out my duties. And by God's grace, I've been able to prove my worth.
The Nigerian Air Force K9 unit also has female dog handlers performing excellently well on the job.
I have 4 females in my wing, and their performance have been above average, and they've actually proven to me that they can do better. I rely very much on them.
I would have to thank the Nigerian Air Force for giving me the opportunity to be among the ladies in the K9 unit.
No ceremonial parade would be complete without the regimental band, and no regimental band would be complete without the bandmaster and the drum major. The Nigerian Air Force has a rare instance in Kaduna, where both the bandmaster and drum major of the regimental band at Headquarters Air Training Command are females. Corporal Christiana Ibrahim is the first and only female drum major in the Nigerian Air Force, and has participated in several parades at command.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, may I announce the arrival of the Chief of Defense Staff, General A.G. Olonishaki, Nigerian Army Medal, in company of former Chiefs of Defense Staff, former Service Chiefs, Chief of Army Staff, Chief of Naval Staff, the Chief of Air Staff, and the Inspector General of Police. You're welcome, sir. You may please be seated.
And service level, constantly demonstrating she can do just as well as her male counterparts. These laudable achievements of the female personnel of the Nigerian Air Force in the various trades are too numerous to cover in this documentary. This could not have been possible without the support of the leadership of the Nigerian Air Force, and most especially the federal government of Nigeria.
The environment created by the federal government, and I believe that what we are simply doing is to do what we think is right, which is to give the opportunity to all personnel to apply themselves for the benefit of the Air Force. So the environment is not only Nigerian, but it's global. And what the Air Force is simply doing is to key into that global environment or global policies that allow every human being, that gives every human being the opportunity to live his or her dream and work hard to excel, which is the most important thing. And I think in our own case here in the Air Force, so many of our female personnel are doing excellently well.
From all indications, the Nigerian Air Force women of war, alongside their male counterparts, are set to take the service to the next level of greatness in the timely employment of air power in furtherance of Nigeria's national security imperatives. The Nigerian Air Force, willing, able, and ready. From the beginning of the insurgency in the Northeast, the Nigerian Air Force has been involved in the quest to quell the menace, in which acts of terrorism were the order of the day. As the battle to restore the Northeast to her peaceful state ensued, many in their thousands were displaced from their homes, giving rise to many camps for the internally displaced persons, popularly known as IDP camps, in the Northeast and across the nation. The intensity of the operations in the Northeast by the Nigerian military to flush out the Boko Haram terrorists and rescue the captured women, children, and the aged from their claws led to an increase in the population of the IDPs in the various camps. The Nigerian Air Force, beyond conducting surveillance and attack missions in the fight against the insurgency, also has a responsibility to search and rescue ground troops, in addition to recovering people in distress. The Nigerian Air Force also has specially trained special forces who fight alongside their counterparts in the other services on the ground, all in a bid to wipe out the evil and madness of terrorism in northern Nigeria, rescuing hostages in the process. Nevertheless, the Nigerian Air Force, under the leadership of Air Marshal Sadiq Baba Abubakar, deemed it necessary to extend the role of the Air Force in the military campaign against insurgency and terrorism beyond the bombs and the bullets.
The whole essence of institutions of government is to provide services. It's about ensuring that human beings are able to live their lives, live their dreams, pursue their legitimate aspirations without any hindrance. So those in position of authority, including the Air Force or anybody, essentially we are there to ensure that the people understand that the Air Force is a Nigerian Air Force and they are Nigerians. And therefore, whatever it is that we need to do, not only to secure them and secure their environment, but to also ensure that we are able to support them when they become IDPs. So the idea of going out for this stems out from the perspective that there is need for us to provide and support the communities that have been affected by this insurgency. The second angle to it, which has relationship with the fight against insurgency, the kinetic dimension of dealing with this problem, is also born out of the fact that we are aware that in every counterinsurgency operation, the communities or members of the communities you fight are very critical to our success. And therefore, the only way we can succeed in getting what we want from these communities, for them to really appreciate that the Air Force is there for them and that the military is functioning there for them, is to find a way of engaging them and develop some form of confidence in them that this military or this Air Force is their Air Force. And you cannot engage people if you are far away from them. With this realization, we know that we have to find a way of winning the hearts and minds of members of these communities so that they can talk to us, so that they can understand why we are there. These are the reasons why we believe that while fighting dropping bombs and rockets on the bad guys, we must also open another angle to make sure that we deal nicely and show compassion and concern for the victims of insurgency. In that way, they will appreciate what we are doing, not only in the kinetic angle, but also they will understand why we are there, that we share a common destiny, that we share common ideas, and those ideas are those of ensuring that people can move around freely, pursue their legitimate aspirations without any hindrance. Nobody should interfere with that God-given right.
Since July 2015, the humanitarian outreach programs of the Nigerian Air Force, which includes free medical consultancies and treatments, free surgical interventions, and airlifting of IDPs were necessary to the Nigerian Air Force Medical Center in Maiduguri. Provision of free eyeglasses, nutritional programs, and distribution of relief materials was intensified in the IDP camps to bring succor to teeming internally displaced persons across the nation and in the Northeast in particular. The Nigerian Air Force has also reached out to communities that have medical centers but are in dire need of medical facilities and has provided such. One example is the Melkohi Clinic in Yola. Being mindful of the daily needs of IDPs beside medical treatment, the Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Baba Abubakar, instituted a quarterly voluntary donation of relief materials to the IDP camps. In this scheme, Nigerian Air Force personnel are encouraged to make a voluntary donation of money, clothing items, and other relief materials, which are then distributed to IDPs in the various camps.
The initiative by the Chief of Air Staff to give back to IDPs in order to alleviate their suffering is a laudable move. So whenever we get the information that these things have been distributed to them, it gives me a lot of joy and excitement.
I'm most delighted and grateful to give back to the society.
In the IDP camp at Dalori, the Nigerian Air Force established a Level 2 hospital and deployed qualified medical personnel to man the hospital 24 hours every day. The Dalori IDP camp has also witnessed a lot of support from the Nigerian Air Force in other areas beyond medical support to provision of borehole for potable water supply, distribution of relief materials, nutritional programs, and provision of shelter. The Nigerian Air Force also established another Level 2 hospital in the Bama IDP camp with medical personnel deployed to cater to the displaced. In addition, the Nigerian Air Force provided potable water system here, and the feeding programs are also carried out here too. Furthermore, shelters are provided for the internally displaced persons to make their living standards better. The Nigerian Air Force hospitals in the conflict areas have also witnessed expansions and provision of new medical equipment with other supplies to cater for the health of pilots and military personnel on the battlefield.
The service experience a lot of support from the Chief of Air Staff, in which we found ourselves that our medical facilities in various units have been upgraded. In fact, over that period now, as I'm talking to you, over 2,500 line items. What I'm saying, ranging medical equipment, ranging from as simple as maybe instruments like forceps and what have you, to the level of CT scan have been acquired and distributed to the medical facilities. And then the number of the facilities have also increased.
Following the expansions of its medical facilities, especially in the conflict areas, the stage became set for the Nigerian Air Force to periodically conduct medical outreach programs from one IDP camp to another, with several IDPs benefiting in the process. At the early stages, the IDP camps in places like Dalori, Bama and Banki, among others, had severely malnourished children, and the Nigerian Air Force therefore instituted a nutritional program that is contributing greatly to addressing the challenge. In the Nigerian Air Force nutritional program, about 1,000 school-going children from various IDP camps in the Northeast are fed daily. It is interesting to note that the nutritional program of the Nigerian Air Force has attracted the attention of some corporate organizations, some of who have contributed to the sustenance of the program through the donation of food items. Notable among these is Toleram Africa Enterprise, which donated 4,000 cartons of Indomie noodles worth over 10 million naira for onward transfer to the internally displaced persons. The donated Indomie noodles were subsequently airlifted to the Northeast and used to supplement the now special diet program in the IDP camps, where many amazing recoveries of previous malnourished children had already been witnessed.
People here, they are very happy because most people here have the problem of having this appendix, all this equinal hernia. You see them, when they cough, they have all this paraumbilical hernia. But they have never got any treatment to it. But now you people are here. Thank God, you have started taking some of them to Maiduguri for surgery. And you have started seeing the people with eye problem. And even you have started operating the eyes in the other tent. We are very grateful.
Alhamdulillah, mun gode wa Allah, dama wannan rana muke jira. Muna yin murna wannan abun da suka same mu. Allah su kai magana yau su zo, mun zo na da su sun kawo mana wannan taimako. Mun gode. Muna ta murna wannan abun, kowa da kowa suka yi sun murna akan wannan abun. Har yanzu muna kan murna muke.
Usually, medicine is something that is evidence-based. Initially, when you visit a camp, you will see that people will receive you with some degree of skepticism. However, when they see a few people, what we've done in several places, so subsequently we saw that whenever we visit camps, we see that the reception is very good.
The Nigerian Air Force has been carrying out cancer screening and surgical intervention outreach in the conflict areas, where the medical personnel visit camps and communities and identify those with medical needs, and based on the condition, a list is drawn for those who will be taken to the theater for surgery. But for urgent cases, patients are immediately evacuated to the location of theater and surgeries are conducted. Worthy to mention is the recent surgeries that were carried out in the Northeast with positive results and great relief to the patients.
The Nigerian Air Force is very passionate about providing humanitarian intervention schemes to internally displaced persons all over the country, and particularly in the northeastern part of the country for obvious reasons. So much passionate that even when specialized operations are planned, particular attention is paid towards taking care of the internally displaced persons. An immediate example would be that of Operation Ruan-Wuta, which was conducted by the Nigerian Air Force from the 7th to the 16th of September. It was an operation that was designed to rain significant fire on known Boko Haram terrorist locations. And in that respect, it was envisaged that there could be an increased number of internally displaced persons. So a special program was packaged. Aside from the one for the IDPs generally, there was also a medical outreach program specifically for RAN. And at RAN, we had a total of 856 IDPs who got free medical treatment within the 2-week period. Then there were some that needed various surgical interventions, that were beyond the immediate environment. So the Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, directed that those ones in this category should be flown with the Nigerian Air Force MI helicopters to Maiduguri, where we have a better equipped medical center. And indeed, they were flown using our helicopters. At the end of the day, from RAN, as well as from other IDP camps in Maiduguri, as well as near Maiduguri, within the 2-week period, we had a total of 90 general surgeries conducted. We also had 62 eye surgeries conducted. There were some who had various eye challenges but did not require surgeries. We had 60 in that category that were given free eyeglasses within that period. That was during Operation Ruwan-Wuta. Of course, there has been a follow-up operation to Operation Ruwan-Wuta, which is codenamed Operation Ruwan-Wuta 2. It's currently ongoing. And again, special attention was given to Monguno. At Monguno, we
the Honorable Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Chief of Defense Staff, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, announcing the arrival of the special guest of honor for this occasion, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari. The national anthem. You welcome, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am Group Captain S. Peter, and I am privileged to be your anchor for this event alongside my colleague, Wing Commander I.F. Gbadebo. May I invite Wing Commander Gbadebo to give us a safety brief. Thank you.
Your Excellency, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, I warmly welcome you once again to the auditorium of the Nigerian Air Force Officers Mess, Kado, Abuja. I shall give the safety brief for this occasion, and I will be making the orientation from your perspective. This auditorium is situated at the frontmost section of the Officers Mess as shown on the screen. The exit signs are marked green as shown on the screen. The auditorium has a total of 10 emergency exits, comprising 6 inner emergency exits and 4 outer exits. You will need to go through the inner exit to access the 4 outer exits that lead you out of the building. However, one of the inner exits leads directly out of the auditorium. To your front are 2 passages, one on the left and another on the right. The passage on the left leads to 2 inner emergency exits, one of which is also the entry route through which you access this auditorium. From the 2 inner emergency exits to your left, You can access outer emergency exit to evacuate the building completely. The passage to your right leads to one inner emergency exit, which links you to 3 outer emergency exits through which you can leave the building. Please note that the right passage is reserved firstly for the guest of honor's use, before it shall be made available to other top dignitaries. To your left are 2 stairways that lead to 2 inner emergency exits on the corridor. Should you need to use the convenience, you may, upon descending the stairways, proceed to the end of the corridor where the male and female lavatories are situated. At the back of the auditorium is an inner emergency exit to the right, which leads directly out of the building. You are please kindly requested to note the exit closest to you. In the event of an emergency that requires evacuation from the building, you are please requested to use the exit nearest to you. When you hear the first alarm, please remain alert and prepare yourself for any possible evacuation. If you hear the second continuous alarm, followed by an announcement on the public address system, please leave your seat immediately and proceed in a calm manner to the nearest emergency exit to you. Should this exit be blocked, please follow the next available exit and be prepared to assist persons who may be having difficulty. Our safety marshals are deployed at all times at the emergency exit, and they will direct you out of the building to the assembly area, which is located in front of the officers' mess. Accordingly, you are advised not to re-enter the building until instructed that it is safe to do so. Please be advised that this is a no-smoking facility. However, there are designated areas for smoking which you may use. For medical attention, the medical team is stationed at the assembly point in front of the officers' mess. You are kindly requested to report any unusual or suspicious observation to the security personnel. The emergency numbers for the medical and security teams are shown on the screen and included on page 21 in the program of event. Thank you for your rapt attention. May I now call on Group Captain S. Peter to continue with the program.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, the entire Air Force family is indeed glad to have you in our midst this morning. Please permit me to respectfully invite our indefatigable Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal S.B. Abubakar, Distinguished Flying Star, to give the welcome address on the occasion of this maiden Nigerian Air Force International Air Power Seminar. The Chief of the Air Staff, sir.
The special guest of honor, His Excellency, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, members of the National Assembly here present, Honorable Minister of Defense and other ministers here present, the Chief of Defense Staff, Service Chiefs, and the Inspector General of Police, chief members of the diplomatic community, chiefs of air staff from invited countries, military officers both serving and retired, distinguished invited guests, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure and honor as the chief host of this event to welcome the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, Grand Commander of the Federal Republic, and indeed all our distinguished invited guests
on behalf of the officers, airmen, and airwomen of the Nigerian Air Force to the Nigerian Air Force International Air Power Seminar. The Nigerian Air Force has for several years hosted the Air Expo among other events. However, the security situation in Nigeria and the rapidly changing dynamics in the international arena, the changing approach to warfare require careful understanding of the threats and response options available for the projection of air power in addressing national security imperatives. We therefore deem it necessary to host this International Air Power Seminar to serve as a platform to exchange of ideas on the best way to apply air power in irregular warfare. The changing character of warfare has imposed the need for a change in the way armed forces approach warfare. While the engagement in conventional or regular warfare remains a possibility, the global predominant threat to nations has become more irregular in nature. Irregular warfare by its nature is asymmetrical, and it covers a wide range of activities with insurgency and counterinsurgency operations at its core. The Nigerian military has been engaged in irregular warfare of recent, particularly in its fight against Boko Haram insurgents. Since the beginning of this decade, despite many challenges associated with this type of warfare, the Nigerian Air Force has over the years actively employed air power in dealing with security challenges facing our nation. On assumption of duty, I envision the repositioning of the Nigerian Air Force into a highly professional and disciplined force through capacity building initiatives for effective, efficient, and timely employment of air power in response to Nigeria's security imperatives. Mr. President, sir, distinguished invited guests, permit me to observe that the Nigerian Air Force has consistently sought to actualize this laudable vision through collaboration with our worthy friends and partners to develop capacities in key areas required for our counterinsurgency operations. Similarly, we have made efforts to optimize our local technology through research and development to meet our peculiar technological needs. All this and the sacrifices of our officers and men have contributed immensely to degrading the capacity of criminal elements that are threatening our national sovereignty. A wide range of counterinsurgency operations have been conducted both singly and in coordination with other services, while a series of air interdiction and close air support missions have been conducted against the insurgents. We have also conducted intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance missions, airlift operations, casualty and medical evacuation, and other operations that exploit the peculiar characteristics of air power. Between the 1st of June 2015 and 31st of October 2018, the Nigerian Air Force flew a total of 51,582 hours, 15 minutes in 39,807 sorties to deliver the air power that has helped to deny Boko Haram freedom of action and create an enabling environment for our surface forces to conduct their operations effectively. To succeed in irregular warfare, the role of the population where the war is fought is very critical. Government forces and the general population must see themselves as partners in progress, working together to restore peace and security. We must debunk the narratives of the terrorists and endear ourselves as patriots in the hearts and minds of our people. I would like to reiterate that based on our understanding of the nature of irregular warfare, the Nigerian Air Force and indeed the military have deployed massive non-kinetic means in the theater of operations. Consequently, civil-military coordination activities are carried out simultaneously alongside air operations. We are very active in the internally displaced people's camp in providing medical, educational, security, and general basic needs of our displaced people. Our medical outreaches in the Northeast are very robust and have gone a long way to accentuate government presence in the Northeast of the country. For instance, the Nigerian Air Force has established level 2 hospitals in Bama and Dalori, where surgical intervention services are provided for internally displaced persons, while medical outreach programs are conducted in several communities across the country. Between 2015 and today, we have provided medical services to over 295,000 patients and have conducted 661 general surgeries and 848 eye surgeries amongst the displaced persons across the country, with well over 80% of these being carried out in the northeastern part of the country. In the same vein, the Nigerian Air Force has conducted skill acquisition programs for IDPs, airlifted relief materials for distressed persons, and extracted vulnerable and aged persons from high-risk areas. These efforts, which are aimed at winning the hearts and minds of the populace, do not only endear the Nigerian Air Force to the people, but also create effects in ways that reinforce the will and commitment of government to the well-being of the citizenry. In the long term, the focus of the Nigerian Air Force is to develop the capacity and capability to efficiently engage a 3-block war on a grand scale, where humanitarian, peacekeeping/stabilization, and combat operations are conducted simultaneously. I would at this point like to appreciate the efforts of the federal government led by our President Muhammadu Buhari, for consistently giving us the support that has enabled us to progress this far. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, despite these efforts and aspirations, we believe that nobody, and indeed no country, knows it all, and the quest to broaden knowledge and understanding will require the experiences of others. As aptly put by Sir Isaac Newton, who as far back as 1675 said, and I quote, "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants," unquote. The Nigerian Air Force wishes to leverage on the experiences of our friends and international partners to deal with irregular threats in Nigeria and the West African sub-region more efficiently and effectively. We are therefore open to benefit from the experiences of both local and international subject matter experts in the field of air power application, particularly as it relates to irregular warfare, which has become almost pervasive in our time. We know that there are countries that have fought or are currently engaged in fighting insurgencies, and we are convinced that their experiences will be invaluable to the Nigerian Air Force. It is in view of this that we have chosen the theme of the seminar to be Air Power in Irregular Warfare, a framework for understanding and responding. This theme aptly captures our sentiments and desire to get a better understanding of the nature and response options for the current security situation that we are dealing with. The seminar is conceptualized to provide a forum for cross-think tank domain discussions where experienced air power practitioners and academics in related fields working in similar emerging threat environments will interact with air power practitioners of the Nigerian Air Force. It is in view of this that we have carefully selected air power practitioners and researchers from all over the world to share their thoughts on the theme in order to add value to our ongoing counterinsurgency efforts. We recognize that the successful conduct of counterinsurgency operations depends on a clear understanding of the required overriding framework and policy that will enable us to implement a whole of nation approach in fighting the war. Although the Nigerian Air Force is in constant collaboration with other agencies and international organizations operating in the Northeast, we realize the need to mobilize all ministries, departments, and agencies, and indeed the entire population of Nigeria to support government's counterinsurgency efforts. We have therefore designated some papers in this seminar to deal with policy issues associated with irregular warfare. Just as one element of national power cannot successfully defeat an insurgency, so also one country cannot do it alone due to the fluid and cross-border nature of these threats. Hence, coalition building is a necessity for any successful counterinsurgency operation. We have therefore also designated speakers to share their experience on coalition building. Additionally, one of the motivations for hosting this seminar is the increasing realization of the overriding need for the application of air power in irregular warfare. However, because of its characteristics and wide-ranging effects, air power could be devastating if misapplied. Also, it is not just enough to be effective. There is the need for efficiency in the application of air power. There is also the need for training on various air power specialties required to conduct irregular warfare. Thus, this seminar has dedicated some time to consider issues associated with air power application, training, as well as ethical concerns in the application of air power in irregular warfare. The seminar topics are therefore built around three broad strands of learning. The first is public policy making. The second is air power application, while the third is training for the ethical application of air power. The three-day program is designed to address one or more broad strands each day. The format of the seminar is conceived to be slightly different from other seminars in order to allow for maximum participation from the invited audience. Rather than selected discussants to discuss the paper, we consider it more beneficial to have more open flow discussion from the audience as much as possible. For today, which is day one of this event, we'll be taking topics from the policy making strand. The paper will be on the role of national power in irregular warfare, to be delivered by Professor Usman Tar of Nigeria Defense Academy. This paper seeks to emphasize the need to employ not just the military, but all the elements of national power when prosecuting irregular warfare. Paper 2 will be on understanding irregular warfare and its challenges to air power application, with emphasis on the Jordanian experience. And we are very excited and glad to have Major General Yusuf, the commander of the Royal Jordanian Air Force, to share his country's experience with us. In the next couple of days, we also hope to gain from the experiences of our friends from Colombia, the United Kingdom, Pakistan, South Africa, and Saudi Arabia. Other countries are as shown on the screen. We hope that from the experiences of our friends and partners, we will get inspiration and ideas that will help us better apply our power in counterinsurgency operations and make us more effective and efficient in the discharge of our duty to our beloved country. On this note, let me once again warmly welcome Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces and all our distinguished invited guests to the Nigerian Air Force Officers' Mess for this International Air Power Seminar. Welcome and God bless.
Thank you very much, sir. Your Excellency, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, at this juncture, please permit me to respectfully invite the Honorable Minister of Defense, Mansour Muhammad Dan Ali, to give his opening remarks. The Honorable Minister, sir.
The special guest of honor, His Excellency President Muhammad Buhari, GCFR President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, members of the National Assembly here present, honorable ministers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Chief of Defense Staff, our host, the Chief of Air Staff, the Chief of Naval Staff and other representatives of the service chief here present, the Inspector General of Police, ex-service chief here present, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Chief of Air Staff, Insurgency. I am also part of this pit to ensure that maximum